If the media can pull off this huge cover-up, then the stage is definitely set for the deception of the New World Order. Oh, by the way, guess who was prior governor of Arkansas and mentor to young Bill Clinton? Winthrop Rockefeller. Once again, the Rockefellers are at the core of another conspiracy, pulling the puppet strings as usual. Here are a few clips.
On January 20th, 1993, William Jefferson Clinton became the 42nd President of the United States. At the time, most Americans were not aware of the extent of Clinton's criminal background, nor were they aware of the media blackout, which kept this information from the public.
For about 2 months, I watched accounts accumulate money. At the end of the month, they zero balanced. They're laundering drug money. There were $100 million a month in cocaine coming in and out of Mena, Arkansas.
Clinton had integrated a number of corrupt cops, judges, and politicians into high-level positions to ensure the continued success of the drug smuggling, money laundering operations. Shortly before Jerry's death, the phone lines at his home were cut, the security system was disconnected, and the Clinton files were stolen.
I believe my father was assassinated because he was the one link that could actually close everything and completely shut Clinton down. I feel that Bill Clinton had my father killed to save his political career.
The 60 Minutes interview had been designed specifically to save Clinton's campaign, not necessarily to get to the truth.
And they came to us because they were in big trouble in New Hampshire. They were about to lose right there, and they needed some first aid. They needed some bandaging. What they needed was a paramedic. So they came to us, and we did it, and that's what they wanted to do. When I told Tim Russert that I was persona non grata at the White House, he said, "Why?" I said, "The Jennifer Flowers interview." He said, "You got him the nomination." I said, "I know that."
Once again, the Constitution of the United States was undermined, and the American people were not allowed access to the truth. That same day, a massive media smear campaign was launched against the Clinton Chronicles. Time magazine, Newsweek, U.S. News and World Report, and major newspapers around the nation simultaneously published false information about the video in an attempt to diminish its distribution.
But imagine this. Imagine the power this man has in Washington, D.C. Imagine what he can do to this nation if he gets that circle of power going there, as he did here. Nothing I can do, nothing you can do can stop it. Because he'll have the absolute power, and believe me, he will use it.
On July 14th, 1994, the producers of the Clinton Chronicles hand-delivered a copy of their video to every member of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Unfortunately, the circle of power that Larry Nichols warns us about was completed many decades ago. Clinton and many other past presidents and congressmen are only puppets performing the work of the Illuminati. 6 months later, the following media event received no media coverage at all. The future of the middle class and all the classes of America was decided by our trusted leaders, and we weren't even told about it. The following clips are from a 20-hour Senate debate over GATT, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. This agreement basically reduces taxes on imports, which provides more incentives for corporate America to move out of the United States so they can take advantage of hugely reduced labor costs. The GATT agreement also solidifies the United States' support of the World Trade Organization, thus establishing the world's economic control by a group of anonymous, unelected men, the Illuminati. The following senators were opposed to GATT.
The New World Trade Organization would have the authority to set parameters reaching far beyond trade law. Thus, the ability of Congress and the ability of state legislatures to legislate in the best interest of the United States and the states, respectively, will for the first time in our history be subjected to the review of secret panels comprised of citizens of other nations. Amazingly, the World Treaty Organization can require that the United States and other members conform domestic laws to WTO rules. I should think that every senator, this senator does, I think every senator would object to this new type of Star Chamber proceeding, which will be installed with the approval of the Uruguay agreements, and which will, by arbitrary and secret meetings. Now, this could amount, in effect, to a secret foreign panel levying taxes on the American people as a punishment for not altering U.S. laws to a complaining party's liking. Now, think of that. Observe how we worry and scurry and wrangle in this body whenever a tax increase is even mentioned, even whispered. And yet here we are ready to roll over and grant a secret board, a secret body, a secret panel, anonymous, and secret powers to fine U.S. taxpayers if we do not rewrite U.S. law to suit the World Trade Organization. Talk about taxation without representation, and we fought a revolution over that principle. Here it is in spades. What will happen is that other member nations, perhaps prodded or even dominated by one or a group of multinational corporations, will bring a complaint against the United States before the WTO, and a dispute panel could rule in secret against the U.S. law as being GATT illegal. The room for pernicious manufactured claims should be obvious to all of us. This puts great pressure on us to change our laws. Once we pass this, that's it. We have had it. We've had our chance, and that's all.
Who in this chamber believes we ought to have a court system that doesn't have due process? GATT sets up a court system without fair due process. The problem is that we've set up a legislative system without fair representation. It sets up a system where we have one vote out of 123, or one vote out of how many join it, and yet we pay most of the bills. 25% of the cost we'll write the check for, and yet we won't control the way the money is spent. Is that a problem? Yes. It creates 50 new committees, agencies, bureaus, panels. It is going to be a huge international bureaucracy, and we'll pay the bills, and they'll decide how it's run. Lastly, it's a one-sided agreement. Anybody who thinks we're getting into an agreement that expands free trade hasn't read the bill. Let me repeat that, because it is absolutely true, and I hope members will focus on it. Anyone who thinks this is an agreement that expands free trade has not read it. Do they have to be fair? Do they have to have their hearings open? No, they don't. They even render anonymous decisions. Mr. President, you have set up here a court system that does not even resemble due process, and I hope the members who are in favor of this will come to the floor and tell us why we shouldn't expect to have due process in these hearings. The U.S. has one vote. The European Common Market has 16. Does anybody here think that's fair? If they think that's fair and they're going to vote for it, please come down and tell me why the U.S. gets one vote and the European Common Market gets 16. I want to hear it, and I think the American people want to hear it. If you like the WTO, tell me why it's fair that 18 countries with populations of under 1 million apiece will have more voting power than the United States and the European market combined. If you think that's fair, come down to the floor and tell me why it is. Anybody who thinks this is about fairness and has set up a valid legislative body has not read the legislation.
Around the world today, as many as 200 million children are subjected, 200 million children are subjected to abusive labor practices in sweatshops, in mines, in factories, and in the fields.